All right, with Craner Show for a very special episode, my 50th one with Windsor Regional Hospital President and CEO David Musyj. David has been at the Windsor Regional Hospital since 2000, became President and CEO in 2007. He's a University of Windsor alumnus, graduating from the dual JD program, and he's able to practice really in Ontario and the state of Michigan. So it's really an absolute treat to have you on the show today, David. I know you're working extremely hard and tirelessly during the entire pandemic. I would imagine no days off, and it's great to have you as my 50th guest.
Oh, thanks, Lyndon. Thanks for having me. And as I stated, a little offended that I wasn't, a little earlier, but I'm honored you picked me for number 50. So well done. Thank you for that.
Yes, thanks, David. And every episode I ask a question relating to coffee, and I don't want to stump you on this one, but where is your favorite place near Windsor Regional Hospital to get coffee?
Well, the beauty of it is at both the Met and Olette campus, we have Tim Hortons establishments here, and so that's my favorite spot. But in reality, I'm a Mickey D's fan. So McDonald's coffee, in my opinion, sorry, Tim's lovers, is my coffee of choice, both in the hospital and outside of the hospital. So that's where in the morning, if I had a choice to stop to grab a coffee, it's Mickey D's. And at home, I have both. I have a Keurig that last week, talking about coffee, was the most traumatic incident in my life. My Keurig stopped working. So it was a bad morning, and Amazon.ca got really quick to order one, to get one replacing it. So I have both the Keurig cups for Tim's and Mickey D's, and I will use Mickey D's at Keurig more than Tim's. So that's a long answer to a short question.
Well, we've heard it. If anybody wants to give David a coffee, make sure it's McDonald's or well, it's great you have Tim Hortons located on site, so you can never run short of your favorite drink in the morning.
Yep, exactly.
So David, I mentioned you graduated with the dual JD at the University of Windsor. Talk me through that. And I know you went to law school after your second year of business, which is extremely impressive. And you've went on from there and have held multiple roles. Now you're at the hospital. You have been for a fair bit now. Can you walk us through the path you took to get where you are right now?
Yeah. So, Lyndon, we're both, I was born, I'll back up. I was born on the west end of Windsor, Greenview Crescent, Greenview Crescent fans. And when I was about 5, we moved. My parents bought property on the 6th concession of Amherstburg. So I have an older brother and sister, and we moved out to Aberg and out in the county, quote. And my dad was a school principal, so education was very important to him and the family. And my mom was a bookkeeper, worked at various locations, both here in Windsor in the United States. And in fact, my mom came over from the Ukraine during the war and met my dad at a dance in downtown Windsor. She was living in Detroit at the time, and then eventually moved over here and raised our family here. So long story short, went to St. Joe's in River Canard as grade school, then went to General Amherst, which you did too. Big Bulldog fan. And our CNE Chief Operating Officer, Karen Riddell, is also General Amherst grad, so little known fact. So she's older than me, by the way. So we went to General Amherst and then applied at the University of Windsor to business. At the time, I was bouncing between, am I going to become an accountant or a lawyer? I had a couple close buddies who we went to school with each day, took the same classes, and they went off to Waterloo after their second year for an advanced type of business program, accounting program. And now they're both accountants. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to apply to law school. I'll stick around here and apply. So I applied after or during my second year because I knew they accepted some students after 2 years, a small amount, and at the University of Windsor. And at the time, it was like they were going to do some type of longer term study to see, quote, how these individuals turned out from a success point of view. So I never know if that study's been done or not. So in any event, applied, had 2 years of business undergrad, applied, wrote my LSAT. I think I did horrible on the LSAT. I don't even want to look back. I think I bombed it, and got accepted. So I was 20 years old when I started law school. And the first day of law school, I met my wife at the library, at the, bookstore. There were bookstores back then. And this is closing in on, 30 years ago. And met her, well, it's over 30 years ago, met her at the bookstore, and she was 19 at the time. So what she did is back then there was grade 13. She didn't do grade 13. She did a preliminary year at the university, then her second year, and applied for law school and got in at 19. So the two of us, she was 19, I was 20. We started dating pretty much once school started, and got engaged like we do everything fast. Got engaged within 6 months, and then got married when school got over. So that's the path that led to getting a law degree. Both Elizabeth and I then wrote our bar exams, and both articled here in Ontario. We're called to the bar in Ontario, wrote our bar exam in Michigan. Luckily, both of us passed it. She did better than me, by the way. And then started working here locally. Our plan actually was, at the time, we were thinking of just moving to the States, that we're going to live in the States. I have dual citizenship because of my mom. And we started articling, really liked it, and decided to stay. We're offered jobs at our firms. And I was at Proy and Rayfield. Elizabeth was at Bartlett Richards, that she just, quote, retired from last year. And after about 4 or 5 years, Elizabeth became pregnant with our son Max. And it was at that point, I like to practice the law, the, quote, traditional practice, but I just didn't see myself doing that for the rest of my life. I wanted to do something different. And I had, at the time, a lot of education clients. I had a focus of HR, some corporate, some litigation, and really wanted to do something different. One thing led to another, and an opportunity came up at Windsor Regional Hospital. Joined here as, quote, legal counsel. Had a great CEO, Martin Jarash, who just let things develop and more responsibility as time progressed. And then when he retired, I applied for his job and was honored to be selected after a search to be his job. So that's kind of how I got here.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great journey, and I think it's inspiring that you got into law school at such a young age, finished it, and then afterwards going to work at a law firm and being a partner after 4 years is really incredible. And since we're on the law topic, we did have a question that came up surrounding your law degree, and it's from Jasleen Dayal at the University of Windsor. What are some of the ways your experiences at Windsor Law really inspired you to join Windsor Regional Hospital?
Yeah, so I find a law degree and the study of law, it really, in my opinion, it changes the way you think about issues. It really was an eye-opening experience about how you examine a particular issue and how you break it down into its components, and try to get to the heart of an issue, and just a different way of thinking. So I found that very helpful, and it's very helpful to this day as we're working in a hospital setting, just to have that ability to maybe look at an issue a little bit differently and break it down a little bit differently, and then try to help myself along with others work through it. And the last thing I want to be is, quote, legal counsel for myself, so I don't come across as, you know, they're experts who do hospital legal issues that we work with and rely upon both locally and provincially. But just that way of thinking, I think helps. So back to the question, going to law school, in my opinion, opens up a lot of doors for an individual. So here at the hospital, you know, I'm a lawyer, a CEO, our director of HR, lawyer, manager of HR, lawyer, patient representatives have backgrounds in legal degrees, risk management, legal degrees, ethics, both physician, legal. So it opens up so many different doors for an individual, that just that concept of practicing law and going to court or sitting at your desk and practicing law, the traditional practice of law, don't think of it that way. I always thought of going into law school and knowing that I don't know if I want to practice law for, quote, traditional law for the rest of my life. I want to do something different. I want to use the law degree to do something different. So that's what I did. So I think it's a great opportunity that opens up a lot of doors for you. And don't think that I'm stuck in a courtroom setting, or, you know, flipping through files every day. And you don't need to think that way. That just use it to do something different if that's what you're interested in.
Yeah, it's very interesting how you've applied your law degree, and especially in a hospital. And do you think, not being, I would say, a doctor, well, you have the Juris Doctor degree, but just being a medical doctor, or having been a nurse or anything like that, do you think that external point of view and perspective has given you an advantage in your role as CEO?
The way I look at it, the issues are so complicated and so difficult. Having diverse backgrounds, getting involved in issues helps. So be it an MBA, be it a nurse, be it a physician, be it a dentist, be it a midwife, is to have all those different diverse backgrounds allows for a better examination of an issue, and allows for a more fulsome examination of an issue, because we all come at it from different angles. So, you know, we have engineers here, we have pharmacists. I can go on and on and on who we got. So even when dealing with, you know, planning for, you know, be it the field hospital or vaccination centers or swabbing centers, having all those different backgrounds comes into play depending on what the issue is. And someone, you know, it allows you to look at human nature. How are people going to react when this happens? What's going to be the natural reaction when we, you know, open up, 2 more days or so many more hours on swabbing? Will people come after hours? Will they come on weekends? You know, so just having that background and that dynamic background, I think, is helpful. So hopefully having a law degree as a background helps add to the conversation and results in a better outcome.
You know, very, very interesting. And having, I guess you talked about being well-rounded and having different perspectives, lived experiences, and how those are so important in your role. So I appreciate that answer. Let's walk us through what is the average day like as CEO at Windsor Regional Hospital? I imagine right now it's definitely hectic and a lot going on. Can you tell us about that?
Easy peasy. Nothing. CEO does nothing. No, actually, what would be great is just try to make yourself redundant, meaning try not to get in the way. So help people get to the solution and try not to get in their way. So for one, you know, like, something some people, quote, have criticized me for is every single patient when they come to the hospital gets a letter welcoming them to the hospital. On that letter, it has my, it used to have my home phone, but I got rid of my home phone. So it has my cell and my email. So I have my cell phone with me pretty much 24/7. And actually, when people call my office phone, all my office lines are connected to my cell, meaning everything goes to my cell. So I have this all the time. And my nickname on the golf course is Thumbs, right? Because this is what I'm doing all the time. So the issue is average workday. I mean, I don't want to get cut. You talk like on April Fools, they, some of the staff, I should have brought it. Some of the staff, I brought it home, put a list of my day. And it starts, it says, David gets up at 3 a.m., sends his texts at 3:45, starts sending emails at 5 o'clock. At 5:15, he calls you to find out if you read his emails. And then it goes through the list. And then it says, you know, it gets to basically at 2:45 a.m., I go back to bed. So I'm not up 24/7. I don't work 365 days a year. So as a result, you got to surround yourself with amazing people. And that's what we have here at Windsor Regional Hospital, is surround yourself with amazing people that work their tails off. And, you know, it's pretty sad when, you know, I'll get an email and yeah, I'll respond. I'll get an email and I'll send something out at 4 a.m. just because you're responding. You're dealing with your day. And then someone writes back to me. And it's like, wow, they're awake. And then you're like, you know what, is it really goofy? Should we just talk instead of going back and forth on text? Why don't we just have a chat at 4:30 in the morning? And we do. Because you're dealing with, okay, this is a pressing issue. Maybe something happened while we're sleeping. We got to get ready for this either today or next week. And we got to be ready for it. So a typical day is, it's anything but atypical, but I love it. It is what it is. And I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't love it. And yes, the one thing coming out of COVID is I want to make sure I don't take things for granted in the future. So I don't take vacations for granted. And hopefully everyone does that now, is that I would go away and be with family and friends, and this would be with me 24/7. I don't remember when last time I put out of office on my email. It's been decades. So why? Because it is what it is. I'm there. So I could be, you know, in the United States somewhere on vacation. I could be in Florida, and someone will think I'm at home. I'm here because all my phones are tied into this. So they're calling the office. They're getting me in Florida, and I don't tell them I'm in Florida. But so, but you surround yourself with great people, and that's what I've done. And they're amazing, and they work their tails off, and the rest of it takes care of itself.
So you keep your like you mentioned, having a patient, like a new patient, they would get a letter and it would have your personal cell phone on it, and they would be able to contact you.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, they get me live. It's fascinating because a lot of the issues, and this is not meant to micromanage, because that's one thing you got to do. And I read it from a CEO who did Baptist Medical. And he did that where he gave his home and cell. And again, when I used to have a home number, and people would call, and people say, oh, they're calling you at home. It's like, you know what? No, people generally, when they call me, it's communication. It's just connecting the dots that they have an issue. Healthcare is stressful. It's a stressful environment for people. Someone got sick, someone's ill, a lot of things coming at them, especially with COVID, it's coming at them left, right, and center. And it's just connecting the dots. So if I can help connecting A to B and just be able to call, say, the physician or the nurse and say, listen, could you just spend like 5 minutes with this family? Because this is what they're looking for. And if you can just give them this answer, it's going to make a huge difference. And 99.9% of the time it does. and it's just connecting those dots. And so that's what I try to do by doing that, and it's worked. So.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's not often that CEOs would give out their personal cell phone number, and anyone off the street, I guess, if they need help, to give them a direct call. And a lot of respect to you for doing that. I think you mentioned patients or somebody that's in a desperate situation and they need to get to the top of the chain quickly and have it be redirected, and you're the touch point for that. And I just applaud you for that. I think that's very, very touching gesture that you do. And I would imagine many people really appreciate that.
Yeah. And again, it's not meant to micromanage a situation, because if you do, then you are going to be working 365 days a year, 24/7. And again, it's communication.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the issues are just not hearing it, or wanting to hear it, not being told, and just connecting those dots. And once that's connected, and keeping small issues small. It's a stressful environment, especially with COVID, very stressful. And it's just, being available and then connecting the dots. I up to COVID, I prided myself on calling back every call I got. COVID, it just can't do that to get these situations. So if I get a voicemail now, I will make sure I send it off, because if people give enough detail, that I connect them with the right person. And generally people have my email too, so they'll text me, and once I know their issue's resolved or dealt with, I'll text them to say, hey, I know, Jonathan or whoever called you, everything's okay. And they're like, yep, everything's fine, thank you so much, type of idea. So we just make sure we got the dots connected, and they know. And again, it's not meant, you cannot do it to micromanage the staff, because otherwise you will be running the whole place all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's impossible. So you do it just to be available, to connect the dots, and it works.
It's really awesome, David. And I want to flip the switch a bit to talking about the pandemic. I think we're all sick of talking about the pandemic. But what have been, I guess, in your leadership role, what are some most eye-opening experiences that you've had as a leader in the pandemic?
Just being prepared for it. If we back up, because I started pretty much when SARS was around, so it was lessons learned from SARS and how to be prepared for the next pandemic, as we knew it was just a matter of time that it was going to happen. So when stuff starts brewing, we have a great infection control team led by Erica Vitale here. And definitely during influenza season, a lot of correspondence going back and forth saying, hey, what about this? What about this? What the numbers look like, and all this type of stuff. So when this started brewing near the end of December of 2019, Erica was on it and was sending emails and, heads up. And I think by January 6th, she had already sent a notice out to the emergency department saying, look out for these symptoms. And those symptoms hold true today. And if they come in, just make sure you're wearing appropriate PPE if people come in with these symptoms. And then I remember saying to her at the time, this is going to rev up. This sounds like it's going to break loose. And the eye-opening experience was our team being ready for it. Is all their training, education. We had 2 years of tabletops on pandemic preparations, and the tabletop exercise was on novel coronavirus. So we knew it was coming. And it was, how do we get prepared for that? And we were prepared for Ebola, et cetera, previously. So the eye-opening was when it came, and when we knew it was coming into North America, into Canada, is doing the preparation, the amazing team effort to get prepared and to get the facility prepared, to get all the staff prepared, to be available for, it was the most nervous time before we had our first COVID positive patient in the hospital. It was literally walking on eggshells. Every day was just everyone was kind of vibrating. We're trying to keep everybody calm and say, okay, we got this. We're going to get this. We're, you got your planning. We got it prepared, and trying to learn as much as we can. But then we have the border with what was going on in Michigan. A lot of our colleagues were sharing stories of what was happening in Detroit. And it was just, patients were showing up at the emergency department and unfortunately passing away right in front of their eyes in the emergency department. It was just chaos. And that put a jolt in all of us because we all were hearing it from our friends and colleagues that work over there that live in Windsor. And some worked here as well. So it was just the eye-opening experience of the team really coming together. And when we ended up with our first patient going to the floor and at each campus and talking to the staff who were caring for the patients, and they were like, we got this, we're good. And the calm, and just, they're like, we got this, we're good. We know what we're doing. And ever since then, they haven't missed a beat. They've kept that going all the way through for the last year. They're tired as all get up. Because it just seems for us in Windsor, Essex, now is our calm period and the rest of the province is exploding. But this is pretty much our only calm period we've had in a whole year.
A while, yeah.
Now, but the fear of knowing what's out there right now, hearing from our colleagues on this side of the border in Ontario, it's not good.
No, definitely not. What is, I guess, been putting some light on the subject? What's been your most proud moment leading Windsor's acute care hospital during this entire pandemic?
Again, I think it's just the staff and them just got it. Like they got it. They're dealing with the issues. A lot of nervousness, a lot of concern, like I said, leading up to the first COVID positive patient. But once we had that, just going, okay, we got this as we go along. And it's been rough. It's been tough. Some of them, of course, came down with COVID themselves, and we've had our outbreaks, and it's been a struggle through all of that. But through all of that, they're busting their tails to take care of our community. And I remember back, I had a town hall in early March of 2020. And it was a week before we had our first positive patient. And of course, we knew they were coming. And saying to the staff, this is it, folks. This is our communities relying upon us. They're looking at us to provide them with the leadership. We're all leaders. They're looking at us to get through this, to lead them through this. And I gave a story, our chief of staff, I had heard this story. He was at church and, back in February, the end of February, early March of 2020. And it was time to go up for communion. And the people behind him in the pews were saying, okay, we're going to take our lead from Dr. Saad. If he goes up for communion, we'll go up for communion. And I use that as an example to say, no matter what classification you're in, people know where you work, and they're going to take your lead. So they're going to look to you on how you deal with COVID and how you react to COVID and how you take the lead in your community or at the hospital. And they're going to rely upon us now. And it's time for us to step it up. And they did. So they've been amazing.
Yeah, like I would imagine that many of your staff, nurses, anyone really that's working at the hospital have taken on some type of leadership role in some way during this pandemic.
Yes, everybody, because we've been surrounded by COVID patients. We've had our share of COVID positive patients in our community as compared to the rest of the province. And being Windsor Regional Hospital, we've seen a vast majority of them. So it's our staff and having the mindset of, even today, we have to assume everyone we encounter is COVID positive. Don't drop your guard. And sticking to that, and that's tough. It's one thing in the community not to drop your guard too, but as staff, it's on 24/7. And what we have to remember is our staff are human beings too. So they have lives outside of this facility. So they have all the stresses of what their families are going through. Their partners or spouses might have lost their jobs, and recognizing that. So, some of the proudest moments is we'll have, meetings with staff and town halls virtually and with union executives, and the union executives saying, we got to recognize we're here at the hospital. Yes, we're taking care of the community, but also we have a job and we're getting paid. There's a lot of people out in the community that don't have a job and aren't getting paid. And this has been devastating for them from that point of view. And we have to recognize that as well. And so I have pride in our staff recognizing that yes, they're doing heroes work, but at the same time, it's they have a job, and there's a lot in our community that are not as fortunate, and as this unfolds, it probably won't get better from that point of view, and it's going to be tough.
No, it is, and I definitely want to applaud yourself and the healthcare workers that have really been working relentlessly this entire pandemic. It's I don't think Windsor would be in a position that it is without the great system at Windsor Regional Hospital or Hotel Dieu. I think it's great that both systems are working together, Hotel Dieu and Windsor Regional Hospital, and a variety of communities are
all the community agencies in Erie Shores. And our Windsor Essex community didn't disappoint either. They're just the support they've given the hospital, the healthcare workers at a time, as I stated, they're struggling, is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And you hate to say you're surprised because it's Windsor Essex, and I've lived here my whole life, so it's quote, not surprising. When the chips are down, they come out, and they're still coming out strong.
Yes. So besides the pandemic, there has been some great news for the community with $9.8 million in funding from the province to build a new hospital in Windsor Essex that I think many of us desperately need and have been wanting for years. So this kind of leads me to the next question. What are your future goals for Windsor Regional Hospital? And I guess, is this announcement exciting? Is it moving your goals forward?
Yeah, it's a huge announcement for our community from multiple aspects. I mean, clearly what COVID has brought to the forefront even more so is the desperate need for hospital infrastructure. Putting up tarps with temporary ventilation and still having it here, and the province relying upon 30 spots like that for critical care beds. Not 21st century healthcare infrastructure. So we desperately need that. So COVID's brought that to the forefront clearly. And the fact this government clearly saw that and has put forward those monies is extraordinary. At a time like this, demands on the province right now are unequal to ever in our lifetime with respect to the demands. So for them to say this is important and this is needed for the province, and we're going to make this investment, knowing that when they make this investment, they are technically investing in the final product too, because they got to lock it down. So this is massive for our community, not only from a quote construction point of view and what that's going to bring in jobs and the economy from that point of view, but really the healthcare infrastructure that we desperately need to care for patients, so our staff is not spending time mopping up floods that are caused by, ancient pipes that are stuck in walls that we can't find the shutoff valve to, because that's ancient as well. So, and I have photos, endless photos of all that at the hospital, and we throw in millions of dollars a year into keeping these places together. But they've served us well. They've served us for a century each. They're tired. This is for downtown. This is, they've been through the pandemics. So they were back in the flu, the Spanish flu. So, two's enough. And Met was built soon after the Spanish flu and was one of the reasons for the building of it. So, so the future goals is clearly that's massive. As we move forward, it's going to be a lot of excitement when it comes to recruiting physicians to this community. They talk about it, and they talk about being part of it. They want to be part of it. And we have a lot of physicians who we recruited over the last decade who want to be part of it, who are excited. And I just talked to our chief of staff who said he's in active recruitment now, and everyone talks about it, how they want to be part of that planning and part of the team. So that's great news. Our immediate goal is April 11th, we go live with our new electronic health information system. It's a Cerner-based system, and that's going to be complicated in the sense of any implementation of an HIS is difficult. They generally don't go smooth. There's a lot of issues. It's very complicated. So starting the 11th for a bit of time, it's going to be a little rocky from a health information system. But the team's prepped. We're dedicated. We delayed it once. We didn't know if we were going to proceed because of wave 3. But again, we have this little window here, and someone's looking over us and keeping us in this bubble here in Windsor, Essex. So we're able to do it and get it going. Like I said, we're six days away. So that's our immediate, and that forms the basis. We get that along with the great clinical care our teams are doing, the great care they're providing. And then we work on putting them in a facility that matches their expert level of clinical care. And I am telling you, that facility is, if you have an opportunity to go look at the newer facilities in the province, be it Humber, Mackenzie Vaughan, which is just open now because of the COVID, William Osler, you look at those, they're unbelievable facilities, and just totally different from a patient perspective. They can be in their own room, have their own toilet. Their loved one can stay in the room with them in a segregated area and be in the room and not have to worry. If I had a nickel for every time someone called me to say, please move me out of this room because I have 3 guests that are keeping me up at night, or even 1 guest that's another fellow patient that's keeping me up at night. It's just, it's like, I can't. And they said, oh, we're willing to pay for it. I said, that's not the issue. The money's not, we just have no space. We have no space for you to have your own private room. I can't wait for the day for that to happen. So when a patient arrives, they go into a room and we don't got to move them 5 or 6 times to find other patients to match up to find space. That's your room. You stay in it. Short of you going to critical care or coming back from critical care, that's going to be your room you go into and you leave from. Perfect. It's your room, your toilet, your bathroom. I mean, there's one saying, it's 1 bum per toilet seat, not 4 bums per toilet seat. So, and that's what we got right now.
Yeah, it's definitely an extremely difficult time for healthcare workers and everyone in the community, business owners, everyone in the community from the pandemic. It's difficult. But I think there has been some positive moments, and you touched upon many of them during our conversation tonight, and the recent funding for a new hospital that I really think nobody can argue Windsor Essex needs that care and that acute modern facility. And I'm excited. I'm glad to hear the progress that's being made at the Windsor Regional Hospital, and also the new electronic system that's being implemented coming very soon. So lots of exciting things during this challenging time for all of us. And I just want to give a special thanks to you, David, for taking the time tonight to join me for such a special episode, my 50th one, where I think many students in the community have been tuning in and learning a lot from you tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Lyndon, and thanks for what you're doing. I've watched some of them. You do a great job, great concept, and I'm honored to be your 50th. So I'm glad you waited to have me number 50. So I appreciate
Yes.
it. No, but thanks, Lyndon. You do a great job. You have a bright future in front of you as well. And for all the students out there, it's tough. I mean, my son's your age, Lyndon, and as we talked about before, it's tough for you to do this all remotely. You know, like you're going to school and being there and being part of it and having the back and forth with the other students and the professors, et cetera, let alone the social life. Losing that is tough, and it's tough on everybody. And so I wish you and other students the best to get through this, and we will get through it. We will get to the other end of it, but hopefully, as I said, it'll make us stronger for it and more appreciative of our future. Like I stated for myself, not taking things for granted that I took for granted before. And that's going to be tough, but I'm going to hold myself to it. And hopefully everyone else holds themselves to it as well, is just live in the moment, appreciate the moment, and recognize it is so delicate. Life and things just as simple as going out to a restaurant in a crowd with a group of people, or going to a sporting event, or watching, my son play baseball. It's tough.
It is, and the light at the end of the tunnel is hopefully here soon. And I can't, yeah, I really can't thank you enough for those kind words, and connecting with the young leaders in Windsor Essex, David.
No, thanks, Lyndon. Keep up the good work. You're going places. You already have places. You're going places.
Thanks so much, and to those watching, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you very soon.